Hello, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Broom with the CBC News Break. The people of St. John are angry and their Member of Parliament unhappy about the length of time it is taking for the long-promised polyclinic in that area to be completed. MP Mara Thompson made this clear as she contributed to the estimates debate in Parliament last evening. She also revealed, however, that Health Minister John Boyce had given her the assurance that the project will be finished in a few months.
At the length of time that it is taking for this project to be completed. But as the Minister pointed out, we had a good long talk this morning, and I can't say that anybody in St. John is any less angry, but I understand some of the difficulties that have prevailed, and I am pleased to hear that we are looking to get back on course and get this project completed by mid-2015.
Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite believes the island needs a campaign to address alcohol abuse. He's concerned about the loss of productivity in the country caused when people become ill or are away from their jobs because of excessive alcohol consumption.
I am not standing here to say that people should stop drinking, but the abuse is what I'm discussing, and the substantial cost that it caused this country in terms of our healthcare facilities and in terms of lack of productivity.
Mr. Brathwaite says efforts have intensified to address the issue of substance abuse involving a number of entities and agencies. These, he says, include Verdun House, CASA, or the Center for Counseling Addiction Support Alternatives, and the Drug Education and Counseling Services. Mr. Brathwaite says he's, however, looking forward to the establishment of standards for their operations.
We want to ensure that we're able to regulate service providers so that there's a common platform on which an acceptable level of support, whether it be psychological, psychiatric or otherwise, or just counseling that are given to individuals who are in need of this support. So I look forward to seeing that amendment to the Health Services Act in the very near future, because that's also consistent with our new effort in terms of the drug treatment court.
An opposition member of Parliament believes Barbados is heading in the wrong direction as it relates to chronic non-communicable diseases. Speaking in Parliament last evening, Christchurch West MP Dr. Maria Agard said the available information suggests the island is still losing the battle with NCDs.
There are still far too many diabetic cases in Barbados. According to Barbados National Registry, over 10% of the population is afflicted by diabetes. That is what, 28,000 individuals? 42% of those who actually present to the hospital, the same hospital that we are suggesting is overburdened already. Almost 42% present with either diabetes or complications of diabetes. When you twin that with hypertension, the debilitation is severe. We are known as the amputation capital of the world.
Meantime, MP for St. Thomas, Cynthia Ford, wants to know what programs are being put in place to assist teenagers who become pregnant while still at school. Ms. Ford, who is a former Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, says she's seeing some 13 and 14-year-olds not being given the opportunity to return to school after having their babies.
I want to know what happens to them after school, because the program that is offered by Edna Nichols focuses on how to look after a baby with a small budget, how to look after the baby generally. But then what happens after the baby is born? And I know that there's still some schools, Mr. Minister, if you would allow me, sir, to say that there are still some schools that are kind of rejecting. Is there still a policy where children after 16 years go out of school once the school hasn't got space? But if a child is 13 and 14, I do not understand why that child would not have to have a second chance and going back into the school system and taking advantage of the education that is being offered.
It's just a few weeks before the Easter weekend and scores of children have already started flying their kites. And the Barbados Light and Power Company Limited has produced a poster for schools to warn children about the dangers of flying kites close to power lines and substations. The electricity company yesterday handed the posters to students of the Charles F. Broome School. Distribution supervisor at Light and Power, Wilfred Clark, told the students they should look for open pastures and parks to fly their kites. And that's not the only advice he gave.
If at any time, you know, sometimes we fly our kite and we say, the kite pop. So when the kite pop, and you see the kite twirling, and it goes into a tree, or maybe onto the power line, I don't want you at all to ever determine that you want to climb that tree to get that kite, especially if there are power lines passing through those trees. Never attempt to climb those trees. Never attempt to rescue that kite from the power line itself.
Meantime, Communications Coordinator at the BL&P, Sandra Reed, says the utility company has already started preparations for the hurricane season, which officially starts on June 1st.
Many of our crews are already trimming trees. We make sure that our supplies are available in the event of a weather system coming. So we have started our hurricane preparations, and we want to assure the Barbadian public that Light and Power is preparing, and we will be ready to respond in any eventuality.
Barbadians do not embrace their rich African culture, and this negatively impacts on how they see themselves. This from President of the African Heritage Foundation, Paul Simbarok. He says there are misconceptions about issues such as dress and beauty that are resulting in a lack of pride among Barbadians.
As we all know, the eradication of African history was key to the slave trade. So what you have now is you have a free education system that I would say about 90% of the people coming out of this system are basically ashamed to call themselves African or African descended. The average Barbadian would prefer to be called British, American. How many of us even think about taking a trip to Africa?
In an effort to change the negative perception of Africa to a positive one, the foundation will be hosting the Sankofa Fair, a partnership with the Haynesville Youth Club. Mr. Rock adds that the fair will feature an exchange of cultures.
This would be like palm oils and African beans, egusis, and you know, things like that. So what they will be doing, they will come in and they will have these things on sale and have a workshop on how to prepare these things and how some of these things taste and things like that. Food will be sold. We have vegetarian food otherwise, and we have people from the foundation that are here living here from other islands, and they will be bringing their dishes. Like we have a lady from Trinidad and she can do like corn soup, and if you've ever been to Trinidad, you know corn soup is a big thing in Trinidad and things. So things like that. So it's be like an exchange of cultures.
We're back after the break with regional and international news. Stay with us.
Judge of whether or not a country is going to develop is how it treats its women. If it's educating its girls, if women have equal rights, that country is going to move forward. But if women are oppressed and abused and illiterate, then they're going to fall behind. Paging Women, Wednesdays at 8:02 p.m. Don't miss it.
Pillars of Worship is the story of our search for God over the centuries. And from the time that first wooden cross was nailed to a tree near Holetown in 1625, God and our many ways of worship have helped to hone our history. Pillars tells the story from early Anglicanism to abundant life, from early governance around 11 parish churches to the exuberant diversity of 500 churches today. From the gorgeous Gothic churches like St. John's, Holy of Holies, the magnificent monuments to saintly ancestors and splendid works of art. From Moravians who came to save the slaves, to Jews and Catholics persecuted for their faith. we admire splendid pillars of stone and human pillars like Sarah Ann Gill and Bishop Coleridge, builders of Barbados.
Get individual programs on DVD for $30 each, or the full package of 7 for just $150. Call 467-5538 to place your orders.
We hope these 7 programs will inspire everyone to enter the churches and search their souls for spiritual health and happiness.
Regional travelers have been placed on alert for possible industrial action by pilots of Liat yet again, and the company is accusing its employees of using a cynical tactic to exploit the fears of the traveling public, particularly over the Easter weekend. LIALPA, the Leeward Islands Airline Pilots Association, has been calling on the airline to reinstate 2 pilots who were dismissed following an incident last October in which one of the company's new aircraft was damaged. Earlier this week, LIALPA met with Liat representatives, Antigua and Barbuda's Labour Minister, Stedroy Benjamin, and Labour Commissioner, Eltonia Rojas. A statement issued afterwards revealed that the government officials were of the view that the 2 pilots should be reinstated and that Liat should be reviewing the case. But the pilots say Liat has disregarded the advice and in a statement expressed their disappointment with the airline's decision. The pilots are also alleging that Liat has resorted to unethical rostering practices, including the elimination of crew meal breaks while increasing work hours to compensate for a steadily declining workforce. 4 people, including an 8-year-old girl, were shot and killed in Jamaica yesterday. The identities of the 4 have not yet been released. The murders in St. James follows Tuesday night's killing of 4 men in St. Andrew. Residents say they heard the explosions and summoned the police. The victims are said to be new to the community. St. Lucia is to hold a national consultation over a new bill that could open the electricity market to independent producers. The Electricity Supply Services Bill is necessary to facilitate reform of the energy sector and, if approved, will replace the 1994 Electricity Supply Act. In a statement, the Ministry of Sustainable Development said that the new bill makes provision for the introduction of independent power producers in the electricity sector. This, it says, is consistent with the government's plan for increased use of renewable forms of energy. The national consultation will take place next Wednesday. In international news, the president of Tunisia is to address the nation 2 days after an attack on the Bardo Museum in the capital Tunis killed 23 people, most of them foreign tourists.